Hey everyone, and welcome back to Motivation Library.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Today we're diving deep into a book that's pretty much legendary. Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart.
Oh, it's a good one.
Have you read it before?
I have, actually. It's one of my favorites.
This book is considered a cornerstone of African literature.
Rightly so.
And I think for good reason.
Absolutely.
It opens up this window into pre-colonial Igbo society in what is now Nigeria.
Such a fascinating world.
It's rich with tradition and complex social structures and vibrant characters.
It really pulls you in.
And this world is all about to be shaken.
Oh, yeah.
To its core by the arrival of colonialism.
A huge turning point.
What really struck me is that it doesn't just tell a story.
Yeah, it's more than that.
It immerses you in a culture.
Yeah, right?
You get to experience the Igbo way of life.
It's almost like you're there.
Through their intricate customs, their beliefs, their way of seeing the world.
Exactly.
And the heart of it all, we have Okonkwo.
That's our main man.
He's this incredibly strong, driven man.
A real force of nature.
Who seems to embody the very essence of masculinity.
As defined by their culture.
In Igbo culture.
Yeah.
But then there's this deep-seated fear in him.
Almost like a shadow.
This fear of weakness.
You can really sense it.
This fear of becoming like his father, Unoka.
Which is really important to the whole story.
Why is that so important?
Well, you see, Unoka was considered a failure.
By their standards.
Yeah, by the standards of their society.
He loved music. He loved leisure.
But
he couldn't provide for his family.
And he was constantly in debt.
Never achieved any titles.
And you know something?
What's that?
He even died a shameful death.
Really?
Yeah, because he couldn't pay back what he owed.
So that shame really hangs over Okonkwo.
Oh, yeah, it casts a long shadow.
And shapes his every decision.
Every action he takes.
You mentioned titles.
Yeah.
What kind of titles are we talking about?
So in Igbo society, you have titles like Ozo.
Okay.
These weren't just for show.
They had real meaning.
They were earned through years of hard work.
Proving yourself.
Exactly, proving yourself as a provider, a leader.
A responsible member of the community.
It was like a system of social ranking.
So your status was tied to your achievements.
And your contributions.
To the community.
That's right.
Okonkwo, haunted by his father's failures.
Yeah, he was driven.
Was obsessed with achieving these titles.
With amassing wealth and proving his worth.
So we're thrown right into the action.
Yeah, the book doesn't waste any time.
With Okonkwo, this young man.
Full of ambition.
Who wins a legendary wrestling match.
Against Emelin's the cat.
That's a great nickname.
It is, right?
And this victory catapults him to fame.
Everyone knows his name.
Setting him on this trajectory.
To be everything his father wasn't.
It's like Achebe is saying.
What's he saying?
Here's a man who will stop at nothing.
Determined.
To achieve greatness.
And he does.
He becomes a wealthy farmer.
Very successful.
A respected leader in Umufia.
A man of influence.
And even earns the right.
A huge honor.
To share meals with kings and elders.
The highest of society.
He marries multiple wives, has children.
Building a family.
Build a large compound.
All the markers of success.
All these markers of success and status in their society.
He has it all.
But even with all this success, there's this underlying tension.
Like a simmering pot.
Like that incident where his gun accidentally goes off.
Oh, yeah.
And kills a young man.
During Azudu's funeral.
A terrible tragedy.
It really is.
And this incident is so pivotal.
Why is that?
It highlights the complex interplay.
Between what?
Between individual action and communal justice.
A key aspect of their culture.
In Igbo culture.
Right.
So Okonkwo's actions, although unintentional, have disrupted the balance of the community.
And tradition dictates
that he must be punished.
It's the way of things.
He's exiled to his motherland Mbanta.
For 7 years.
That's a harsh sentence.
It is, but it underscores something important. The importance of maintaining social order.
And appeasing the ancestors.
That can't be forgotten.
It's in exile that we really get a deeper understanding.
Of what?
Of the Igbo world.
The world Okonkwo is both a part of.
And apart from.
It's a fascinating dynamic.
Okonkwo's ambition plays out against this backdrop.
What kind of backdrop?
Of a rich and complex culture.
And Achebe brings it to life so well.
I agree.
Through these everyday rituals, traditions, and beliefs.
It's all woven together.
Their connection to their ancestor.
And the spirit world.
Permeates every aspect of their lives.
We see it in their reverence for Ani.
Who's Ani?
The earth goddess.
Oh, right.
And the importance they place on maintaining harmony.
A balance with nature.
Exactly.
There's that beautiful ritual.
What's it called?
The Week of Peace.
Dedicated to Ani.
Where any violence or quarreling is forbidden.
It's a time for reflection,
reconciliation.
reaffirming their connection to the land.
Yes, a powerful time.
And then there's their justice system.
So different from ours.
With the masked spirits, the Igugu.
Representing the authority of the ancestors.
These aren't just costumes.
No, they're not.
They are believed to be the living embodiment
Wow.
of the ancestral spirits.
That's intense.
And their judgments are final.
No appeals.
We see this in action.
Where do we see it?
When they settle the dispute between Uzowulu
And his wife Migbafo.
the Igugu listen to both sides.
They weigh the evidence.
And deliver a judgment
aimed at restoring balance.
to the community.
It's fascinating, right?
It's a far cry from the Western legal system,
For sure.
but it reflects their deep belief in collective responsibility.
And the interconnectedness of the community.
This concept of balance extends to every facet of their lives,
It's woven into everything.
even gender roles,
There are clear discussions there.
between men's and women's roles.
But there's also an understanding of their interdependence.
Right, like that conversation between Okonkwo and Obirika,
About white men.
where Obirika says,
What does he say?
you might as well say that the woman lies on top of the man.
When they're making children.
It's funny, but it's also a pointed observation
About how different their ways are.
from the ways of the white man
And those ways are about to come crashing into their world.
with the arrival of the missionaries.
changing everything. Yeah. It's almost ironic in a way.
What do you mean?
Okonkwo, this man driven to achieve greatness.
Within his own culture.
Yeah, but he's brought down.
By what?
Forces, he doesn't understand forces that challenge the very foundation.
Of that culture.
It's like a clash of worlds.
These two different ways of life colliding.
Here comes this new religion, Christianity,
With its own set of beliefs, values, social structures.
and it starts to chip away at the existing order.
Creating divisions.
Yeah, within the community,
And those divisions.
are exactly what the missionaries exploit.
It's a classic strategy.
Divide and conquer.
They present themselves as messengers of peace and salvation.
But there's more to it.
What do you mean?
They're backed by the power of the British Empire.
An empire that's not afraid to use force.
To get what it wants.
Initially, some of the Igbo people are actually quite tolerant.
Of the missionaries.
They're curious, even willing to engage in debate.
About their different beliefs.
The nature of the Christian God versus their own gods.
Right.
But that tolerance starts to erode
Why is that?
as more missionaries arrive
Just Ashley.
with the coming of Reverend Smith.
He's a different kind of missionary.
More rigid
Uncompromising.
in his approach
Reverend Smith represents this wave of evangelical fervor.
that often accompanied colonial enterprises.
It wasn't enough to just convert people.
They had to completely abandon their old ways,
Their beliefs, their practices.
often through shame and coercion.
A very different approach.
And it's fascinating how Achebe portrays those early converts.
Yeah, you see a mix of motivations.
Some, like Okonkwo's own son Nwoye.
He's drawn to Christianity.
He finds solace in the hymns and the teachings.
In the idea of a loving, forgiving God.
But Moyes always felt stifled by his father's harshness.
So this new religion offers him something different.
A different kind of relationship with a higher power.
But it's not always so personal.
What do you mean?
A lot of the early converts are the Ifulfu,
The outcasts of Igbo society.
the men who haven't been able to achieve success.
Or status within the traditional system.
They see Christianity as a chance for a fresh start.
A new hierarchy where they might find acceptance.
And power that was denied to them before.
So it's not always about spiritual awakening.
Right. It can be a mix of things.
Social, economic, personal motivations.
Especially in the context of colonialism.
Where embracing the colonizer's religion can be seen
As a path to advancement.
as more people convert.
Tensions start to rise.
Especially for Okonkwo.
He's enraged by his son's betrayal.
He sees it as a rejection of everything he holds dear.
Everything he's worked for.
Their relationship already strained.
Becomes a microcosm of this larger conflict.
Between tradition and change, old ways versus new.
And this conflict comes to a head.
With the incident involving Enoch,
An overzealous convert.
who commits the ultimate sacrilege.
What does he do?
He unmasks an Igwugu.
During a sacred festival.
Remember how central the Igwugu are to their beliefs?
To their justice system.
To unmask one is to strike at the very heart.
Of their social order, their spiritual beliefs.
It's an act of defiance.
But also of profound ignorance and disrespect.
And the consequences are swift and brutal.
What happens?
The clan retaliates by burning down the church.
And then
Things escalate from there.
the district commissioner arrives.
The representative of British authority.
He completely misunderstands the situation.
He sees it as a simple case of law and order.
missing the cultural and spiritual significance.
Of what's happened.
He imposes fines, imprisons Okonkwo,
And other village leaders
further fueling resentment.
toward the colonial administration,
It's a classic example of how colonial powers operated,
imposing their own laws and systems
without any regard for the existing customs
and traditions.
of the people they were ruling.
It's about power control.
And the arrogance of assuming one's own way of life.
It's superior.
And this is where the tragedy really starts to unfold.
Okonkwo, already reeling from his exile,
Feels betrayed by his own people.
he sees their willingness to negotiate,
With the district commissioner.
to pay fines, and accept punishment.
As a sign of weakness.
There's that heartbreaking scene
And he laments their inaction.
after the district commissioner's men humiliate them.
He says they've become like women,
A harsh statement reflecting the values of his culture,
but also revealing his deep disillusionment
with how his community is responding.
to this threat,
He longs for the days when the clan stood united.
when they would have met aggression with force.
But that unity has been shattered.
Some have embraced the new religion,
Others cling to the old ways.
and many are paralyzed by fear.
Okonkwo, with his warrior spirit,
His unwavering belief in strength and action.
cannot comprehend this in here.
He spent his whole life fighting,
Overcoming obstacles.
proving his worth.
But this new enemy, this insidious force of colonialism,
Is something he doesn't know how to fight.
it's a fight he can't win with his usual methods. Okonkwo, he's like trapped, isn't he?
In a way, yeah.
By his own strengths,
It's tragic.
his determination, his adherence to tradition,
All the things that made him who he is
become his downfall.
in the face of this unstoppable force.
And Achebe doesn't hold back
No, he doesn't.
on the brutal reality.
Of colonialism.
We see it in the arrival of the missionaries,
He's a district commissioner.
but also in those stories about other clans
Like a bomb
completely wiped out.
for resisting
It's a chilling foreshadowing.
of what's to come.
Achebe really shows how colonialism operates on multiple levels.
It's not just about military conquest.
It's about cultural erasure
The imposition of one way of life.
on another.
The psychological impact of being told your beliefs are wrong.
Your customs
Your
backward.
very identity inferior.
And it's heartbreaking to see the impact on the Igbo people.
How they become divided.
Some embrace the new religion,
Others cling to the old ways.
and many are just paralyzed by fear.
That internal conflict, that
Right.
fracturing of the community.
That's one of the most tragic consequences.
Of colonialism.
This strategy of divide and conquer.
Break down the existing social structures.
So seeds of doubt and discord
And then step in to fill the void.
with their own systems of power
And what's so powerful about things fall apart?
is that it forces us to confront these truths.
About history.
It's not just about Okonkwo's downfall,
It's about the dismantling of a culture.
the loss of innocence
The human cost of colonialism.
that continues to this day.
It's still relevant.
Oh,
The
absolutely.
legacies of colonialism are still playing out.
In so many parts of the world,
Economic disparities,
political instability,
struggles over land and resources,
understanding these systems of power
how they were established, how they continue to shape us.
is crucial.
If we want a more just and equitable future.
We have to learn from the past.
You know, one thing that struck me.
Was the role of language.
Interesting.
Achebe wrote Things Fall Apart in English,
The language of the colonizer.
but he weaves Igbo words and proverbs throughout,
It's like he's reclaiming the narrative,
asserting the value of Igbo culture.
even within a language that was imposed on them.
It's an act of resistance,
Subverting the dominant narrative.
reminding us that language isn't neutral.
It carries cultural assumptions, power dynamics.
Even the potential for erasure.
By incorporating Igbo language in storytelling,
Achebe gives voice to a silenced culture.
challenging us to see the world differently.
It's a reminder that whose stories get told
In what language? From what perspective?
shapes our understanding of the world.
That's why it's so important
To seek out diverse voices.
to listen to stories from marginalized perspectives.
Literature can be a powerful tool
For empathy, for understanding, for building bridges.
in challenging the legacies of colonialism.
Things Fall Apart remains so important.
Even decades later,
It's not just a historical artifact.
it's a testament to the resilience of culture,
The power of storytelling
the struggle for self-determination.
in the face of oppression.
We've only scratched the surface here.
There's so much more to explore.
We encourage you to read the book for yourself.
Immerse yourselves in Achebe's world.
Grapple with those complex questions.
About culture identity and the legacy of colonialism.
As always, we want to hear from you.
Share your thoughts in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive,
Don't forget to like this video
And subscribe to Motivation Library
for more explorations of books
that challenge our thinking and inspire us to grow.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.